Hello, in this video we're going to be multiplying special case binomials. This is a really important concept that you're going to be using for the next couple chapters. So make sure you're taking good notes. First thing I want you to do is notice all these 5 problems that I've written down. What do you notice about these problems? So I want you to pause the video, think about what these problems have in common, and when you think you know the answer, uh, resume the video and I'll tell you. Okay, so uh, what you're doing is we have x plus 8, x minus 8, y plus 4, y minus 4. All of these are using the same terms. Each binomial has the same term, except one of them is adding the terms and one of them is subtracting. And that's true for every one of these binomials. So what I want you to do now is pause the video again, and I want you to simplify each of these. You can use FOIL or a box method, whatever you want, and then resume when you have all the answers. Okay, so I'm going to run through how to do these real quick. So you should have gotten x squared plus 8x minus 8x plus 64 on this one. And then once you combine the like terms in the middle, you're going to end up with x squared plus 64. Okay, now the same thing is going to keep happening. So on this one, you should get y squared, and then you're going to get 2 middle terms that cancel out. And then, oops, I messed up. Let's start this page again. Okay, now that you've resumed the video, when you simplified this, you should have got x squared plus 8x minus 8x minus 64. And then when you combine these two middle terms, they should have gone away, canceled themselves out, and you should have ended up with x squared minus 64. Now if you did these correctly, that's going to keep happening. The middle terms here are going to cancel out, and you're going to end up with y squared minus 16. I'll skip down here, and then I'll go back for the blue. Here you should have got 36 minus w squared. Here you would have gotten 4x squared minus 9. Here you would have gotten 144 minus m squared. Okay, in a moment you're going to pause the video and take a look at all the answers that you see, the simplified answers here, 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 and let me know what you think they have in common. Okay, so now that you've resumed the video, a couple things you should notice. Well, first of all, rather than having 3 terms in the final answer like yesterday's video, we're having only 2 terms. And each of these terms are squares. So y squared, 16, 64, 9, w squared, these are all square numbers. So that leads us to a rule. Here's the rule in algebra form here. And then here's the words of it. The product of the sum and difference of the same 2 terms is the difference of their squares. So the product, we have the binomials we're multiplying, of the sum, so the plus, and the difference, the minus, of the same 2 terms, a and b, is the difference of their squares. So the square minus the square. Okay, so let's see how this works for the blue one. So rather than using the box method or FOIL in this case, if we notice the pattern, which we're going to need to get to that point, because it'll really speed up some of the things we're going to do in the next few chapters. I see that this is a sum and difference of the same 2 terms, so I'm going to square the first term, and then I'm going to subtract the square of the second term, and I'm done. Same thing with the green here. X squared is the first term, so I'm squaring that, right, which looks like this. The second term is 10, so I'm going to subtract the square of that. That's a little easier. So this is going to be x to the 4th minus 100. Alright, so that is that rule. Now we're going to move on to another special case here. So pause this video and tell me what you notice about these problems. Okay, so once you've resumed the video, you should realize that each of these we're multiplying the same thing. So x plus 5, x plus 5, y minus 3, y minus 3. So it's similar to the last set of problems, except that it's not the sum and the difference, it's the same thing each time. So they're either both sums or both differences. And these two on the bottom are the same thing. I just did it in exponential form, but this really means n plus 7 times n plus 7. This means f minus 6 times f minus 6. So pause the video using the FOIL or the box method. I want you to simplify these and then resume, and we'll talk about some patterns we see here. Alright, so now that you've resumed, you should have simplified this to become this. And let's do all the blues here, and this one should have been this, and this should be, let's see, f squared minus 12f plus 36. And the green ones we should have gotten y squared minus 6y plus 9 and n squared plus 14n plus 49. Okay, so make sure that you got the right answers for those using yesterday's method. Now we're going to get to the rule. So the square of a binomial, so meaning anything with two terms, so a plus b squared or a minus b squared, the square of a binomial is the square of the first term, so a squared, plus twice the product of the two terms, so ab, and then times 2, plus the square of the last term, b squared. And then in the case of subtraction, it's the same thing, except where you subtract the middle. You subtract the product times 2, right? So let's see how that works in the blue scenario. So first we're going to square the first term, so x squared. Then we're going to find the product of the two terms, so 7 times x, and then double it, so twice the product, so plus, so 7x times 2 is 14x. What I might do instead is do it like this, and then I'll simplify it. So I'll say twice the product of the two terms, and then the last term squared. So it's going to be x squared plus 14x plus 49. For the green one, it's almost exactly the same. We're going to square the first one. Then we're going to subtract, here's the difference, and it's a difference, right? Double, or twice, the two numbers multiplied, so 4 and d, and then square the second thing. So that's going to end up being d squared minus 8d plus 16. Keep in mind, when we're doing the subtraction here, we're talking about the two terms not including the subtraction, which we usually would. So it's d times 4 times 2, and then this negative takes care of the negative. So those are the two rules we're learning in this video, and then we'll practice them tomorrow. Thanks for watching.